I've got a quick demonstration for you relating to the gaps on these recordings. In my first cop block video, the one from October 2016, I presented an expert report where Mr. Kent Gibson talked about a number of gaps on the Glenn recording. That is the fake recording I've been talking about for years. And we'll scroll through and we'll see if we can see any of the gaps he was talking about. It might be zoomed out a little too far. Okay, so here's one right now. And we'll put our cursor on it and zoom in. And we'll see if we take the start and the end of this. Now this starts at 449.736 and it ends at 449.767. So that's about a 30 millisecond gap. And in the report, I presented a cop block by Kent Gibson. Kent Gibson said that in his opinion, these gaps were indicative that the audio had been edited. Now, in response to that report, for the evidentiary hearing, Boulder City contacted an expert from Digital Ally. His name is Les Pingle, and he was one of the architects of this actual recording system. And in his report, he said that gaps like this could be caused by packet loss due to radio interference between the officer's transmitter and the digital video mirror, so the actual recording system. So in the transmission process between the officer's microphone and the recording system in the car, sometimes information can get lost, and it gets lost in packets of about this size. So that was the conclusion of Mr. Pingle's report, and that kind of contradicted or undermined the conclusion of Kent Gibson. That's totally fine. What Mr. Pingle failed to explain is that there were a number of other gaps, and these were included in Arlo West's report, another expert that we had hired as well, who also had reports out at the same time. And in Arlo West's report, he noted a number of gaps that were of a much smaller size. There were 3 millisecond gaps in this recording, and Mr. Pingle did not explain those at all. Now, when I was creating my police are falsifying video evidence video, I was debating whether or not to talk about those gaps because I noticed that the smaller gaps were present in all the places that I said the recording was edited. But I knew that if I was going to talk about those gaps, I would want to know where each one of them was. So, and let's switch over to the waveform view so we can actually get a better sense of what I'm talking about. I'm going to zoom out until each move of an arrow key represents about 1 millisecond. Okay, we're going to scan through and see if we can see. Now this is the big gap that I just showed you. We're going to scroll through and see if we can see anything different. And now we're at 450 right now. Right here. So you won't be able to see this at first unless you really know what you're looking for. But right here, there is a 3 millisecond gap. I'll show you. Let's take the start time of this. This is about as precise as I can make it. Okay, this is 454.914, and this 454.917. So we found our first 3 millisecond gap at 454.914. Now, this is a 16-minute recording. And so there are about 960 seconds, and actually a bit more than that. There's actually about 1,000 seconds in this recording. And I went through every single millisecond. So that's about 1 million milliseconds. And I went through every single one. And I found every single location on this recording that had one of these smaller gaps. I sat here with a notebook and I noted the time of every single one. And when I did that, I started to notice a pattern. There is a 3 millisecond gap every 6.144 seconds for the entire length of this recording. So we're at 454.914. Let's add 6.144 seconds to that. So that takes us to, well, if we add 6 seconds, we get to 5 minutes. .914, and now we'll add 914 plus 144, 1058. So we go to 501. .058. And now let's see. Okay, so we're gonna zoom. Let's zoom way out so we can scroll a little quicker. And I'm not gonna scroll through the whole way because it takes too long. But you can just kind of believe me that if you look through all of these, you would not find any gaps in between. We're gonna go to 501. Now I predicted it would be 501.058, and if we go and we put our cursor here, 501.058, and it continues to 501.061. So it's a 3 millisecond gap, exactly 6.144 seconds later. Now this is for the whole this is for the whole entire length of this. Okay, so just to prove this to you, we're gonna get a random number from 1 to 100. Okay, 97. All right, let's multiply 6.144 times 97. $595.968. All right, now let's yes, so 1457.26. If my math is right, which it probably isn't, but let's see. Let's just see what we find. All right, I think I did the math wrong. Okay, so we've got 595, sorry, I just did the math wrong on this. It's minus 5 seconds, that makes sense. Then you add that to that. Oh, whoops. Oh, here it is. No, I did the math right. Okay, it's 026, not 26. Sorry. Sorry, folks. I did the math right, and I made a mistake with the decimal. Here it is. Look, 1457.026. Now I showed you this is just a random number. And this pattern repeated exactly almost 100 times. We're at the end of the tape now. This hasn't varied by 1 millisecond the whole time, okay? Now what does that? And these gaps, they're not just in the parts that are real or are fake. Doesn't matter if the part is real or fake. This pattern doesn't change. So what does that? I don't know, because Les Pingle of Digital Ally didn't explain why this happened, even though this was something that he had the chance to explain and was supposed to be explaining. He didn't feel that this was important enough to talk about, or maybe he just has no idea why this is here. The only thing I know of that is this precise is a computer program. But, you know, I guess maybe there's some kind of malfunction in the recorder that happens exactly on a certain schedule of milliseconds, just forever. Now, these two recordings, we got two other recordings from BCPD, and I don't have time to scroll through them. But I looked and looked through Driscoll recording and Grasso recording, and guess how many 3 millisecond gaps I found? I didn't find any. much less a pattern of them that repeats exactly the whole way through. I could not find any single 3 millisecond gaps. And I provided these for download. You can check yourself, but I couldn't find any on here. It's possible that these two recordings are from a different type of system. You know, most of the cameras in Boulder City Police Department at the time, on June 8th, 2016, basically all the cameras in that department were DVM 500 plus cameras. But there were a couple cars that had different model numbers or different models of camera, of DVM system. So it's possible that these two cars have a different type of system in them. I would say it's not very likely. When I tried to ask BCPD what types of systems these cars had, they wouldn't tell me. That was the first record request that I submitted to them that they would not respond to. So anything else I wanted to know, totally fine. I wanted to know that the types of cameras in these cars, that was off limits, and they just ignored my request. So, yeah, I haven't put this in the videos yet because it's kind of complicated and I needed to kind of give a context for this information before I shared it. Hopefully I will be able to explain this better on the podcast, and I'm probably going to delist this video as soon as the podcast goes up. All right, thank you. That's the end of this.